this is for a friend of mine that I went and looked at a reply, a reaction state to stuff I post, right? Comment on or whatever. I leave my energy signature there. This is what I'm experiencing. At the moment I'm communicating it, now you're experiencing, now you become aware through the text. What I was aware of and communicating to everybody else that sees what I was communicating. Now they're aware of what I'm aware of in visual text format. Formatting codes, matter state, 4, the number 4, as Stead reading, about she was feeling isolated. And that is there is, I try and remember that the most complex questions are always answered in the universe of creation by the simplicity in which it was created. Okay. Which means you already know that love doesn't work backwards in time. It's not something that got invented or thought of in the future. It's always been. So you know that love has always been. So when you are what love is, you already know you're forever, because that's the engine of creation. Okay. And so when I was a child growing up, I realized I was very different. Not only from everybody in the family, but everybody else I came in contact with. You're different. That's right. And I thrive on being different. I would want to be different because I'm an artist. I'm a musician. Okay? A musician, a real musician, is spirit form. The spirit loves to dance. And what moves the spirit on the wave? Music. M-U-S-I-K. The mic. The microphone. So we love to dance. So we love songs. We love poetry as poetry flows from the heart. That's why it was so difficult for me to try and translate what I'm actually experiencing in energy, the amount of energy that is translated by the amount of energy that I know that I am, makes it impossible for me to use that much energy to communicate in any visual text form, the amount of energy represented by what I feel in that form, communicating to you in that form, that you experience in your mirror. So now you get into the art of communication using that language that was given to us, that I programmed into my memory, and thus use in the future to communicate with using that language. And then that's when you get into all the reversal stuff. I have to catch myself on that, but it works a little bit differently for somebody who's at the center point of zero, or if you will, the perfect exact center point of a cross in every single cell, in every single circle, in every single sphere, every single sun. It means you know how to tune in to any magnetosphere. Anything that's on fire, okay? It's an engine that is producing what you experience in that world, in that spiritual world. Because spirit is in all the energy. So that's why when I was a child and they would ask me, I am in spiritual form. I'm a spiritual being. I'm a love energy being. A spirit that is in that light is spiritual love. That's love energy. I am heart-based. Okay? I was heart-based when I was a little kid. And when I realized I was on a spiritual battlefield, stay in your heart. They go after your heart. That's your soul connection. So your spirit is your guide, which protects you, which is the power of the spirit that is in that light protecting your soul. So you have a relationship with your spirit. So I am the spirit communicating to you in spiritual form, which is what love is, which is what light is. It goes on forever. Okay? And what that means is that you have no fear. Because fear is the lie. Okay? And that's the point, is to beat everybody down to the point where now you obey the master. The master is the one who's in fear of you. That's why it beats you. Because it realizes that if you were the absence of fear and you became what love is, now it's in fear of you. Okay? And I mentioned that experience when I had an experience with a warlock. who took over a space next to me when I was about 15 years of age. And this is cross-translated in the same way that I had a previous experience when I was around 9 years old, sitting in the front seat of my dad's 49 Ford, driving through Oakland one night with a man that was being hauled out of a bad wreck, who was covered up with a blanket on a gurney, being put into a hearse, which back in those days, that was an ambulance. I was experiencing the amount of voltage shock or electric shock, which is known as hematologic shock, because of the loss of voltage, which was the loss of blood. I was experiencing the loss of energy in him sitting in my father's front seat of that vehicle. And it shook me up. That's called hypersensitive, because I run a hyperdrive as a monopole. Okay? So you know you're different. Okay? How many beings you run around that you know that run a hyperdrive? It's androgynous. It's on fire, right? So you're hypersensitive. That's hyperspace, hyperspeed, hyperdimensional, right? So that's why when we grow up, we're hyperdimensional learners, because we realize how much energy is made up by what we're aware of, which is everything that is alive and living in a living universe, which is living energy, which is living light. That means spirit is in that light. That is, by spiritual definition, is known as a purifier, or what we call a pure heart, because it means that the heart is fully open. There isn't any electrical resistance being experienced in that being's heart at all. That means that heart is wide open. That's a badass vortex. Okay, that's like a galactic tornado, because I can experience what's happening in this galaxy. I get communication to be aware of what's happening in this galaxy. Okay. So you're tuned into all the stars. Yeah, you're connected to all the stars. I'm connected to everything in this universe, actually. That's 15D. Okay, because you're a powerhouse. You're a power engine, right? You make choices about who you learn through and the pathway that you choose and why you choose the pathway that you choose, which is really based on the guides. And who's that? That'd be your first parents, whoever gave birth to your soul. The father and mother. See, for me, it's simple. A mother god or a godmother. They're one. So they gave birth to another one. Okay. So in other words, I've never known anything other than eternal love that flows through my heart that I share with others, because that's how on fire I am. So it meant that I chose, as my free will right to do that, to be a free spirit. And what frees the spirit to run with the hottest fire, which is the hottest engine of creation, is be willing to serve forever, which means you're always with the one. You're never separated from the one, because the one realized you are on fire to give energy away for eternity, and you can't fool the one. You choose to want to hold on to any energy. I'm talking about one electron, because you're going to experience within yourself, no, I want to hold on to one electron. You cannot fool the one. Okay. And now if you're willing to give it all away, you're willing to give everything away. All your material possessions, all your yachts, all your boats, everything you own, all your clothes, everything, so you're butt-ass naked on the beach. The same way that you came out of your mother. You want to give up everything that you've earned while you're here since you were a little tiny new boy? Give it all up. Give your bank account away. Everything that you ever earned in electrons, give it all away. Ever felt that way? Wanted to do that? Right? And still know, being within your own soul and spirit, everything's going to be just fine. Everything's going to work out just fine. I have a future, even if I did that. And I tested that. I means tested that in my life to see if it works. And the silly part about that is that you already know how it works. And so you don't play games like that with the one, because I am the one. So I don't play games with my own energy, with my own mind. Okay, and that's what they do with their mind. They're actually wargaming their own mind, playing war games with an AI. Okay, we don't play their games. Okay, they lose by default, because at some point they're going to run out of energy, and those simulations will begin to collapse on themselves. Now all of a sudden all the simulations are gone, because somebody came along with more fire, which is real living light that isn't simulated anything. So what that means is that I have been blessed to be in any environment where there isn't anybody except for nature, which means like I've spent a lot of my life being alone, just being with me. But you know that you're not alone, even though you may be physically alone, which means you don't have if you're a boy, you don't have a girl with you. You don't have any children with you. You don't have any parents with you. You don't have anybody from the community, the neighborhood. It's just you and the trees. You and the trees, the birds and the bees. All the fish, all the bugs, everything that's out there. It's just you and everything out there. So it's like being in one big planetary terrarium, an aquarium. And so you are just as much out there as they are. So I always perceive myself, hey, I got as much right to be in the ocean as any whale, dolphin, manta ray, eels, everything that's out there, squid, octopus, all the fish, right? And so in other words, hey, you're here, I'm here. You have just as much right to be here as I do, because the same energy that's flowing through me is flowing through you, because the energy that I am is the energy that you are used to be created with. So that's like a plumbing system. So it's like you're plumbed in, like pipes, right? Like a design, like a motherboard, see? So everything that's flowing through it, it's flowing through you. So you know that you are the engine of creation, because you're experiencing eternal unconditional love through your own heart, and you're sharing it that way unconditionally with others, because you're experiencing the trauma they've experienced with them. So you want to heal them naturally by just bringing your energy in without saying a word. Your energy is just going to do that. And then you have, like I did, just specific relationships that I had throughout the course of my life, okay, where I realized, because of how hypersensitive you are, you want to heal everything. Everything. Right down to the smallest cell, the molecule, every element, right? Because it's easy when you're running hyperspeed to be so sensitive that anything that's out of tune, you'll pick up on it. Our antennas are that sensitive. It's like hypersensitive, right? And so that's why it's even hard for me sometimes to walk on grass, say, I love you too. Thank you for allowing me to sit here on the grass, right? To be grounded to the earth. And well, power up, baby, right? So it is true. Somebody mentioned, I think it may have been you that mentioned about the ocean. That's why I've always gone back and forth between the ocean and the trees. And I've usually spent more time, I would probably say I've spent more time in the Pacific Ocean than I probably have other places. But particularly in places where the energy is very high in the ocean, and Hawaiian Islands and different places have very powerful, I call it getting cleaned up. So right down the road here at La Hoi, very powerful energy. They are treacherous waters because of that, because there's a lot of energy in the waters pounding up here against the big island of Hawaii. But you go down here to La Hoi, you jump off the boat dock. It's probably a good 150 feet deep there, but that's some very powerful, energetic water. You jump into that place, and that's an immediate recharge. I call it cleaning off, getting rid of all the goo. You come out of there, you go, wow. See? Same thing, get over as close as you can to the magma on this big island, right? It'll simply wipe from memory, in any of your cellular memories, any pain or physical suffering that you suffered, right? It's like a memory loss. Hey, I'm not experiencing that no more. It's not even in my cellular memory anymore. I've had some major memory wipes done on this island since I've been here, and that's why I am here. It's a powerful accelerator. It's a tornado. So when you're a hyperdrive and you're on the largest shield volcano, then imagine what you can do on this rock. Right? It's a very powerful, energetic rock. That's what I went out and did this afternoon. So you're doing energetics. I do energetics with the sun. I do energetics with her, with Mama. Let's get it up, Mama. Let's get it up. Sending love through all the circuits, sending love through all the circuits, sending love through all the circuits, using all the neurons, connecting your hearts. I've been trying to connect every heart on this planet since I was a little boy. Let's get it up, get it up, get it up. See? So I love to spend my because everything that is out there is out there. You already know you're not alone. All the bugs that are out there, all the birds that are out there, everything that is out there is like your relatives. Right? You're part of the same landscape of the universe that created us. So in other words, I've never saw any separation, because the same engine that I am, which is what love is, the same energy that's flowing through it, because you know that's what's in your mirror. So as soon as you stop experiencing a loss of love in it, you're experiencing a loss of love in yourself. Okay? So that's the resistance. That's called resistance. Somewhere you're experiencing the resistance, which is density. Now you're measuring the electrical density resistance to experience a greater capacity, to experience more love, which is a capacitor. You know, so now we're back to the heart. The capacity for your heart to run what I call a full-blown light wheel, which is the fastest vortex. If you're experiencing any resistance in that vortex of yours, chances are you're still holding on to something in cellular memory that hasn't been cleared yet. Now you're running at faster speed in that vortex, or you're experiencing electrical density resistance somewhere in your proximity in your environment. Right? Because for me, going to different places, that's what I do, is I'm measuring the resistance, the consciousness, the density of the consciousness. That's why you go into places like New York, and anywhere there's a major city, it's going to be a draining in your battery. That's what I experience. That's why I spent my whole life in nature, to get reboots. Reboot. Be back with the big mirrors, the big breathers, trees, mirrors. Right? Yeah, sentient beings that are alive. Tree hugger, grind yourself. You know, release all the negative stuff, right? Be one. Be one again, which is in balance between both sides. And since I'm androgynous, that's easy to do. It's easy to do on this rock, on this planet. Right? Just plug into a magnetosphere, the center point of a cross, a gyrodome. Right? And you balance it out and release any of the stuff that you picked up, because we're sponges. When you're hypercenter, you're a sponge. You're experiencing everything. Okay. So what happens is, when you start feeling more dense, man, the way that I know and I experience more density is my poop. How fast am I getting rid of waste product? Okay, which now again, we're dealing with pH and alkaline. So in other words, I can be highly alkaline, jump on an airplane going from the mainland, having 4 poops before morning or midday, land here and not have one in 48 hours. Drive around the corner to the halfway around the island. Now I'm pooping twice a day. And yet my diet won't change what I'm putting into my body. Like cucumbers, you know, pomegranate juice, pineapples, that kind of stuff, right? In other words, I'm not changing what I put in here, but my wastewater treatment system is not moving as fast, simply by moving the location. So that means there's greater electrical density, what I call dirty electricity, in that city than there is if you go down to some place like La Hoi Hoi, where there's only one little 4G tower, microwave tower. It's sort of hidden if you get out of the way, because you can tell by the strength of the signal, right? And so if you're not being hit with directed energy weapons fire, then chances are your energy is going to be up, and you'll be able to experience the healing energies there at that point that are much higher. Oh, yeah, baby. So the energies are different here, particularly on this rock. And it's based on density, which is density consciousness, right? Which basically means is more compression, right? Instead of the expansion, right? Which is the acceleration of the electrons, which is the acceleration of superconductivity, which is the acceleration of your consciousness. How fast are you going? How fast are you spinning light? Which is all the visual information that you're experiencing using a hyperdrive, right? So I've always been one in nature, which means I can be by myself. And I've been out there. They used to, you know, this is what used to get me, particularly with military training when I was in the military academy, when I was like 5 years old. Buddy system. Got to have a buddy with you. That's counterintuitive. It's like, what's the matter? Love is the absence of fear. I certainly am not in fear of being by myself when I'm hanging out with a goddess, with her essence and her spirit, right? With all the other living spirits that are out there in nature, right? So you're bringing the light in there, like a lantern. I'm bringing a lantern in here, okay? So that means that now everything in nature realizes, hey, we know what's here now. And one of the ways that they know that, particularly where I've camped out and all the places that I've gone by myself, is to light a big-ass campfire at night. And I've had some bad-ass fires. I mean, like, it took me about 2.5 hours to load the back end of a Toyota pickup truck. I estimate it to be about 4,000 pounds. Most of it was, if you've ever burnt madrone is actually burns hotter than oak does. So it burns really hot. So if you've got a good pit going, it's maybe 4 foot by 4 foot and maybe 3 foot deep, and you start loading that up with small sticks and little bigger sticks, there is an art to building a campfire if you want it to burn all night. And so that's how you do it. You start with small, go to medium size. So you want to build a badass bed of coals. See, that's called a base fire, right? And so you want that to be as hot as you can get it. So you keep feeding it, keep feeding it, keep feeding it, right? Now it's coals, they're hot. And you keep adding the bigger stuff, like big ass 12-inch chunks. And then get 3 or 4 of those in there, stacked with maybe 1 or 2 more, right? Now you got the base burning hot enough that it'll burn slow, but it'll just keep on burning. It'll just keep on burning. So you want that base to build that base as hot as you can so that you know that that base will sustain enough combustion based on the cooling effect of the night as the night gets cooler, right? To maintain that furnace. So you know how to run a furnace so that you got fire all night. So when you wake up, it's still hot. So if it's cool in the morning, right, you can warm your hands and make yourself some coffee and hang out and thank the sun for its energy for being alive and in aloha and living spirit for another day. All right. So yeah, I'm a nature boy, a nature girl. Just one, which means there's a girl in me just as much as there's a boy in me. Sometimes, depending on where I'm at, I feel more the feminine side than I do the masculine side. But most of the time, it's just balanced, right? But I would be dishonest if I wasn't to say the truth. If there had been some times, for example, I painted my toenails pink, purple, right? Wear a lot of colors and flowers. Flowers on top of my hair, what's known as a lei, right? So girls that are Hawaiians call that a mana, which means this is a boy girl or this is androgynous, which means he's a feminine boy or he's running feminine spiritual energy. He's running goddess energy in him, but he's also a male because you can see him and he looks male. Okay, which means it's peaceful energy. That's the point. It means you're bringing peaceful energy that is in balance. Your water worlds are in balance. It means your mind is in a state of peace. That means your energy, which represents your soul, is in a state of peace. Okay, so all the elements, the water worlds that represent the water in your cells, are experiencing what you are, which means is experiencing the soul, which is the consciousness, is in a state of peace. That means your cell and your water's not turbulent, right? So it's all about input-output and where you choose to hang out and why you choose to hang out where you hang out because of the way that the energy is that resonates with your own soul and your spirit. So if you love to be around powerful energy, that means that there is a powerful spirit in you that is in powerful energy that loves to hang out with other powerful spirits that are powerful energy. So if there is a powerful spirit in you that is guiding your soul, then I'm going to throw a guesser out there that you love to be with other powerful spirits. And in the Indian community, those are known as heart warriors, which means they're fearless, right? So they defend the female side or the goddess side of the universe, the birth giver of creation, the wisdom of Sophia, right? So you realize the 4 square crystal cathedral. So when you realize you're the one, if you will, the male side coupled with the female side, and you're one with all creation, then you've chosen to be with all creation by virtue of being in peace, love, harmony, and balance with all creation, because that's the nature of your spirit, that's the nature of your energy, that is your chosen pathway. That's what it means to be chosen. You've chosen the right pathway. You've chosen to be with the light. Now you experience what love is. That's the energy you use to be who you are. That's the energy you use to create with. That's the energy you share with others. That means it doesn't come at any charge. That means anything that I experience, just like I told the gentleman here at this house, I will avail my energy on behalf of doing whatever you need to have done around here. I will use my energy to make that happen, which means you don't have to give me any electrons, any electronic numbers. I will just use my energy to do that because I know how to do that. And what that does, it powers your magnet up. Now you're on fire. What that does, that increases the intensity of your fire. Now your light's burning hotter. That's the way magnets work, right? Spirit is in that light. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Have a good night. I hope that helps. Um, yeah, it's Alan Watts put out something recently when he talked about that's how you get to know who you really are, is when you're alone with yourself. I remember one time reading in one of Terence McKenna's book, who was a botanist that got together with a couple other guys. He wrote a book that I read most of it, which was called "The End of History and the Rebirth of the Goddess." Okay, and what's known as the archaic history. Okay, archaic history, which gets lost, much like if you talk to the Navajo and their language that is coded in their spiritual ancestral knowledge has been experienced over time from what they've learned, and what they've learned is coded in that language, so that they never lose that. See, when that gets broken, the codes get broken. That can change the consciousness from one generation to the next, what the children are going to learn through their parents as spirit guides. So they know how this works. I love the Navajo Indians. I had one who was a close friend of mine. I worked with the U.S. Forest Service. His name was Yazi. One of the most beautiful spiritual energy to be around. You know, it's the nature of their spirit. That's the point. The nature of the energy is the nature of the spirit. You know, the essence of the true essence of your being. That's why the fragrance of flowers is not the same for every different flower, right? And so those fragrances can lock you into a timeless space, because I've experienced that. That's what grabs you. That's what consumes you. So when you're androgynous, that part of who you are, you know what that feels like to be a part of that. That's the spiritual feminine or goddess side that you just, wow. Right? So, and so that's when you have a relationship with that way, you're one. Right? The seed and the grower become one. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Have a good night.